Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity. Excuse me, I've got a little tickle in my throat from a bug, and I have a cat, Lily, who wants to jump on top of this computer at any moment. I'm going to reach in and answer a question from the jar. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to exhale. Get my timer set up. My dog wants to go out very badly, but I just had her out, so you might hear her scratching at the door in the background. The question I received was, why does it hurt so much to be real? Why does it hurt so much to be real? And that's a very good question. It truly is. Why does it hurt so much to be real? And I can relate to that one. I believe, again, this is my opinion, not necessarily expert opinion, what I've learned and gained through my studying and practicing and whatnot. And again, you'll have to ask that question to yourself more than you seeking advice from this human I call me, because I'm far from perfect and far from an expert in this matter. But I do love the question because it is a question I ask myself often lately. Why does it hurt so much to be real? And I think when we go on this journey inward, and that's what being real is, it's a journey where we stop identifying with the exterior shells that we're wearing and with the exterior world, and we seek something deeper and more meaningful within. That is real, right? And going real involves, to me, a archaeological dig. Okay, this is the way I see it. And I see that our outer layers are our false protections, layers we wear because, say, in the center of the layer, what most people would stop at, in the center of all these layers on this dig, there's this one layer or one big cement block that we often hit. And that cement block is our programming, that what Bruce Lipton would call the pre-7-year-old programming, what occurs before we're 7, when our brain waves are active in theta, and we are absorbing and being programmed with everything we hear, see, and feel. So everything we experience at the age of 7 seems to get implanted in our brains as our programming. And we build on that program as we proceed through life. But that programming often is not full of healthy, life-affirming things that we pick up. We are all social animals, right? And we all need to belong to a pack in order to survive. That sense of belonging that Maslow talks about is very, very real, because we are almost hardwired neurologically to seek approval of others, because we need to fit in to a pack in order to ensure our survival, right? So we seek approval for biological reasons, not just for social or psychosocial reasons. We feel we need the approval of the pack so we can stay in that pack, because staying in that pack is one of those things that ensures our physiological survival. So we are hardwired brain-wise and nervous system-wise to do what we can to be accepted by this pack. But because of that pre-7-year-old programming that's in many of us, we have this false belief, but it's such a core belief, such a deeply entrenched belief that has, got ingrained into that core I'm talking about, that cement core, because of all the messaging we received and the way we perceived the world at the time through our theta functioning, that we just become to believe that we are not worthy of the pack, that we're defective, that the pack is going to throw us out. We're going to be expelled from the pack. Therefore, we are going to be on our own and we're not going to survive. So it's almost like we have this imminent threat to survival going on the whole time, because we don't feel like we are going to have the pack support unless we can pretend to be something we are not. And so that's where the protective layers of personality come in. We start building our personalities before the age of 7, and we continue to build them or add to them or reinforce them by what we can get from the outside world and what we can avoid facing in the outside world. And we protect these identities with everything we have, because we feel like if we don't continue to play the imposter role, that everyone around us is going to realize that we are defective, and they're going to expel us from the group, and we will not survive without the group. That group could be our family system, could be our peer group, could be our work group, it could be our social system, our religion, our educational system. Doesn't matter. The idea is that we need this human pack in order to survive. And we feel like we're not worthy of being in the pack. So we, because of this core believing, not everybody has it, I'm not saying that, but I think it's probably more prevalent than we think it is in people's minds. Because of this core belief, we feel like we're going to be expelled at any minute, and therefore we are going to be at the risk of our own demise because of it. So that's why we cling to these imposters, these false masks, these masquerading selves, as Yogananda referred to it, these protective layers of personality that we've built and reinforced and wrapped around this cement block of our pre-7 programming, where we were the most vulnerable. And this core belief was so devastating to us that we did whatever we could to avoid being rejected by the pack. And we developed these people-pleasing personalities, or these egos, redeemer egos, that have to appear to be more than, so that they feel they don't have to hear the programming from that 7-year-old self saying, you're not good, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. So we do whatever we can to combat that and contradict that by building up these personas and these achievements and these social images that we hang on to and cling to with all our might, because they give us a sense of protection. The whole while, this active core within us, the cement block within us, is still seeping up through all the layers we've created. It still gets triggered by life events. We still feel the shame and the fear of that pre-7-year-old programming. We still feel that unworthiness. But we're constantly struggling against it, trying to use the outside world, manipulate that so we don't feel it, and to keep building up these shells around us. And we start to identify with the shells. We start to identify with the shells, thinking that's who we are. Our personality is who we are. And so that's the only way we're going to, and we're so concerned that others around us are going to see us for who we really are on the deepest level. So we keep reinforcing those shells so that no one sees within it at those core beliefs that we are just vaguely aware of, because they're even too painful for us to be aware of. So we're just stuffing stuff on top of them, and it's almost like we buried this big cement block underneath all these layers of personality. And these layers of personality are our protection. It's where we can go to hide, from that fear of being expelled from this society, from the social group. And it is, something we cling to and grasp, as the Buddhists would say. And so the person asks, why is it painful to be real? Because that's not, all the shells around us we know are not real. And you'll catch yourself time needing someone's approval. And as we start to say, okay, I know this doesn't work. This outer focus doesn't work. I want to go inside. I want to heal. I want to find who I truly am, which is a spiritual journey, and which is a deep, journey to the deeper I. And it's a very arduous journey. It's like it's like archaeological dig. You're going to go start digging away layer and layer and layer. Not so much digging, but allowing life to rip off the top layers, to erode away the top layers, to bride the top layers with its circumstances instead of clinging and trying to hold on to those layers. Just let life take away those layers. And life will, with its challenges. It certainly will, with its relationships, with its all those times you get criticized, all those times you get rejected, all those times when things don't work out the way you, as this personality, think they should. Those outer layers will start to erode away on their own. And we have to stop clinging to them and start allowing them to be blown off in the wind and become dust, to allow the waters to wipe them away, to allow life to do what it does to wipe away those outer layers that are not real, so we can get to the part of us that is real and authentic. So as we're digging, so I look at it as that we're digging, but in all actuality, it's more of a willingness to allow life to do it, but we might have to do some digging inside. So we're digging away one layer of personality after another layer. Say, for example, oh my gosh, I thought I was this professional role, and no, I'm no longer that role. That gets swiped away. Oh, I thought I was the kind of person that everybody liked because I was funny, and then you have a few people telling me, you're really not that funny. You probably got some buried pain in there you're not dealing with. So that goes away. Or these false identities that we cling to protect ourselves with. Life will take them away in one way or another. Who we are in the social relationships. Our relationships may break down for one reason or another, or we physically may break down because part of that layer is our connection with our physical body. And that may get broken down. So we may continuously be eroding away on the outside, on those upper layers. And if we're looking at it as a digging away, we're digging, then all of a sudden we hit that big cement core, and it's like we hit it so hard with the shovel, the whole shovel reverberates, and we're just shaking. It just shocks us to realize what was beneath all these personalities that we're trying to protect ourselves from. Was this programming, this core belief about our unworthiness. I really thought that about myself? I really think that? And then the more we discover these core beliefs, the more we realize how much it has impacted every aspect of our life, every choice we made, how it led us to make these personalities that we had, how we were more concerned about pleasing others than living authentically and really, how we were fighting against reality so we could create this image of who we thought we was for our sake and for the sake of the rest of the group so we didn't get expelled. And how this need for belonging overtook our life. And how it impacted our safety and security, right? So we come to realize that, and it's kind of earth-shaking, to say the least, to see how much these beliefs are impacting our lives and how so many of them are negative. How can a human think that about themselves? But then you see, well, that's why I got into those relationships I got into. Or that's why I never had the relationship with money that people around me had, because I just didn't think I was worthy of it. Or, oh, that's why I did that, because I was people pleasing again, trying to get everybody to like me, so I was giving too much of myself away. And we start to realize all these patterns that come from that big cement block of the pre-7-year-old programming that takes place in our body. And it is very, very shocking, to say the least, to see that. And then it's almost like we're stuck there as we're moving. We're trying to get deeper, but all of a sudden we hit this great big cement block. How do we get to that cement block? It is so painful. And that's where what this individual says, how come it's so painful to be real, is because you have to get through that block. That block has exposed your most vulnerable part that you kept away from yourself and kept away from others. And facing it, first of all, is challenging. To be that vulnerable, and automatically your amygdala is going to start firing, and your nervous system's going to start firing, and and your prefrontal cortex is not going to have the capacity to rationalize it all, make sense of it all for you, and to calm you down. And you're just going to be overwhelmed with this stress that, oh my gosh, this fear of imminent demise, because I'm going to get kicked out. They're going to see, the imposter syndrome. The imposter's costume has slipped away, and here is who I am, and it's so imperfect. Look at him, it's effective. I'm unworthy. I've been told so, from the people who should have encouraged me, whatever, during those young years. And here I am. I must have been right. So here I am, this effective human being. Are you going to throw me out now? And there's that sense, if I get thrown from the pack, if I'm myself, I will be rejected, and therefore I will not survive. The ego will not survive. All those layers above us was the ego, and we wanted them off so that we could deal with the samskara that has been ruling our lives. And so now that samskara is not buried under, layers and layers of dirt, layers and layers of false protection, layers and layers of meaningless ego. We have these core beliefs that have ruled our lives, and we're facing them head on, and it isn't nice. Now, there is a risk here, because this is a very precarious level to be on in our journey inward. there is a risk to our mental and physical health here. Like I said, we have reactivation of the nervous system because of this fear of being exposed and being thrown out of the pack that arises. We can't even accept ourselves, right? That's why we buried this part of ourselves, these fears and these beliefs, because we couldn't accept them, and then we didn't think anybody else obviously could accept them. So here we are in this stage of realizing how much work we have to do to love ourselves, and how little we do love ourselves in the reality of things because of this core messaging, because we were never enough, or we come to believe we were never enough because of this messaging. And to face that is really challenging. And it's like a cement block, because how do you dig through cement with a shovel, right? We have to wait for that cement to soften. We have to wait for that earth to say, instead of cement, say clay, soften, so that we can dig through it. And we soften that with our mindfulness and our awareness. We soften it with our compassion towards self, right? And our willingness to accept reality for what it is, the suchness of it. I don't know, yes, this is painful and it sucks, but this is where I am right now because I want to go deeper, right? This is only a temporary stage of my going deeper, but it feels like I'm stuck here because I have this cement samskara to get through. And it's not even so much that we have to do anything about these beliefs, that we can change them, we can reprogram, restructure them, Or we can, but the biggest thing we have to do is be willing to let them come up and out. And I think, that's what some scares do. They just rise on their own because the Shakti's underneath it, pushing it up, right? So it's just let it come up. Let it be exposed. See it. Instead of running away from it, instead of trying to push it back down with more layers of dirt and soil to put over it, we just allow it to stay exposed. Red and raw and vulnerable, as hard as that is where healing takes place. And we allow that pain of facing what we really think about ourselves and our experience of life, and seeing how it impacted every aspect of our lives. And now we want it out, right? So we encourage it to come out, but we encourage it to come out with compassion for self, instead of beating ourselves up, instead of beating it up, because we're the ones, basically that kept it there. And instead of getting too lost in the history or the story of it, like the details of it, just notice there's that feeling and that belief there. Sure, there's a reason, came from this person, came from that messaging, came from this, so that happened to me, or whatever. But what's really important is the fact that I see the belief now. I see it clearly, and I see how it's impacting my life, and I see that I don't want it there anymore. But instead of resisting it, we accept it as a part of the experience we're having right now. This is the suchness of our lives right now, as I'm dealing with these beliefs that have been exposed. And then eventually they will lift up in a way, and we can do some things too. Like I said, we can reprogram them to some degree, and we can replace them with life-affirming beliefs. But we're softening that soil so that we can continue to dig. This is not where we stop. This might be where psychology stops. This might be where science stops and physiology stops. But it is not where we're going to stop if we're truly intent on getting to the truth of who we are. If we're truly intent on becoming real. Yes, this is a certain form of realness without the false selves, but there is something even more real, more powerful, and more beautiful underneath all that pain, right? So we want to keep digging to who we truly are. But we have to wait for this level of acceptance and willingness to heal here so that we can go deeper. Now, when we start to dig deeper, we're not going to have the backing of psychology that we might have had, or the backing of physiology, or the backing of science to get us deeper, because it's not something, we're not going back into something that we can see and explain. We're going to go beyond that to something so few people have ever contacted or felt. And we just need to believe it's there, and we just keep digging through that layer and waiting for that layer to debride and wipe off at the same time we're digging. Life circumstance will help us. We don't want to curl up in a ball and say, okay, I can't handle this, because it can be very hard on mental health to realize it's that much negativity in you. The world becomes very dark all of a sudden. This is the dark night of the soul, right? The world becomes very dark and challenging. But at the same time, there is light beneath it that we just can't see right now, right? Just like when it's cloudy outside and it's dark and everything feels, dark overhead, the sun is still there shining brightly, but we just have to wait for the clouds to part. So we're just waiting for this earth to part a bit so we can continue digging to who we truly are. And this probably is the most painful part of the inward journey, the most challenging part. And because we're facing that which we ran from all our lives, that which we built this false sense of self over, so we didn't have to deal with this. But it's the only way to truly heal, because this cement block, this samskara that we've been, running from, has still been influencing every aspect of our lives. And if we want to stop it from influencing every aspect of our lives, we have to expose it, look at it, look deeply into it, know where it came from, and then release it, or be willing for it to release itself. And we got to keep digging to get to the deeper part of who we truly are, because who we truly are, when you say you want to be real, is not anything to do with the personality. It's that which exists beneath the personality, is the higher self, the deeper self. And when we hit that, like when you start digging past this layer, which I'm still in the process of doing, so I'm just speaking from what I intuitively know, can't give you any scientific validation for this experience. But when we dig past that samskara, we're going to get to the most astounding light, Satchitananda, internal consciousness and bliss. And yogis have done this, rishis have done this. They have gone past the samskara layers. And we all have our own samskaras. But most of us carry the samskara of unworthiness. And once we get past that, we start to realize not only do we belong to the pack, we are the pack. There is no disconnection from the pack, the others in the pack. It's all one mind, right? It's all one universal energy. And there's no way you're going to ever be expelled from the pack. The body might be, the personality might be, from another ego's point of view, but not in reality. Who we are cannot be harmed or threatened. Who we are is beyond rejection and criticism and, redemption. It's beyond shame and fear. Who we are is what we're digging for. You just have to believe that that light is there. I truly, truly, truly believe it's there. So I'm digging past this dark night of the soul. It's been a long, dark night for me. This cement block is pretty thick, I'm realizing. I had quite the shock wave still going through my body from hitting it so hard. The realization of what those core beliefs are is quite astounding, because I built so much above myself that was contrary to what I actually believed about myself. And I did my best to believe that false self over the reality of what I truly believe as the pre-7-year-old with the programming in me. So, yeah, the programming is pretty yucky. But it is just programming. It's not who I am. And this stage, this big cement block, is not who I am. I am beneath it. I am beyond it. And you are beyond yours. Well, that's all I have to say for that. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day.